A tour of Earth's ancient supercontinent. For more than 500 years, people have tried to find every possible explanation that the Earth was one large mass that was later separated. Some explanations were out of mere fantasy, while others seemed to have scientific reasons behind them, and we became a home with it. One man that dedicated his life in studying this took a rather unique approach. Philip Skeletor had quite the interest in birds. He studied these from Asia to Africa, Europe to South America, and realized that some similarities in species in the different regions of the world. He went further and studied mammals, and specifically lemur-like animals. He noticed the availability of these striped mammals in India, South America, and Africa. This led him to conclude that there was once an existence of a land called Lemuria, where all these animals originally came from, and then migrated to the different regions of the Earth. He had to explain the possibility of this movement, considering the wide ocean that separates Madagascar from the rest of Africa. And to answer this, he claimed the existence of a bridgeway where these animals walked through. He suggested that it was once the current base of the ocean that we see, which he suggests sunk down, and that is how these animals moved. To some, this may sound like a completely hilarious story that someone made up to try and wrap around his head how similar animals can exist in different regions of the world, while to some, it makes total sense. However, there has not been any scientific proof to prove this theory up to date, and so can be considered null and void till further notice. Although Ernest Haeckel later supported the theory that there once existed a bridge between Africa and Asia, it raised no alarms. Surprisingly, the story of Lemuria seemed to have been embraced by an occult that was once famous years ago. This occult believed in its existence and referred to it as paradise. The theory they came up with was that in this paradise, there lived 7 different people of different races. These were quadrupled and lived in Lemuria in the times where dinosaurs existed. Each individual represented each race that exists, including one who represented the Asiatic people. These people, it is said, later migrated from Lemuria and sank. Scientists laughed this off as there seemed to be no valid proof of the so-called Lemuria, but still believed in the possibility of a united supercontinent. In the year 1994, a spacecraft was sent to study Venus, as it is quite similar both in shape and size to Earth, hence considered as Earth's sister. Venus is much closer to the Sun than Earth, and scientists imply that this may be the reason why Venus looks like it does. The spacecraft, equipped with a camera, displayed the outward appearance of Venus. The image showed Venus wrapped in clouds, and it seemed that there was no possibility of visible light passing through. This seemed quite disturbing as Earth and Venus seemed to have very many similarities, but the planet Venus looked completely lifeless. Other images revealed a dark fluid of lava, and the conclusion was that its close proximity to the Sun resulted in the suffering of Venus tremendously. Additionally, the complete inexistence of tectonic forces resulted in Venus getting baked alive. In the case of Earth, it can be concluded that tectonic forces have protected it from the same fate as Venus for more than 3.5 billion years till date. The same plate tectonic forces have resulted in the existence of a variety of rock types in the different regions of the Earth. Geologists have thoroughly studied the different rocks that make up the surface of the Earth, both on land and in the oceans, and the result was that the continental crust was the face of the Earth. The continental crust is made up of distinct and refined rocks. Plates collided and crumbled, which caused it to form 2 layers of crust that are thick in size. As a result, the crust that goes underneath the other allows molten rock to sit in the heart of the crust, is crystallized, and then turn light. The thick layer that is formed results in high regions such as mountains and are usually strong but can be susceptible to the forces of water, wind, and ice. Years ago, Ortelius, a cartographer, went on a mission to go all around the Earth and purposed to map it down on a sheet of paper. The result he obtained was utterly surprising, as the world appeared to have been a large mass once upon a time, but seemed to have been ripped apart into different continents. The image appears as if, when reconnected, they would seamlessly fit into each other. This separation may have occurred due to earthquakes and floods. The continents looked like pieces of jigsaw puzzles that, when the west of Africa was joined to the east of South America and the east of America to west of Europe, and so on, the puzzle would be complete. Up to date, there is no existence of a supercontinent regardless of Eurasia. taking up almost a third of the whole world. However, we can give credit to Ortelius as his determination and exploration was the beginning of a wild journey for scientists. Geologists studied ocean bases to see the movements that have been made over the years to indicate possible union. The edges of these bases may indicate a possible connection when the same concept of jigsaw puzzle is applied, but may also be a great bargain. Rock fossils can be dated back to show movements and where the rocks originated from, but due to the different processes that rocks are subjected to, such as pressure and degradation, the results may not be as expected. Glossopteris, a tongue-shaped fossil of 300 million years, is found in Antarctica, India, Australia, Africa, and South America. This can be a valid enough proof to show a possible union of the land masses years ago. The resulting supercontinent must have sat at a temperature or tropical latitude where the wet swampy conditions that plant could dominate. Indicators such as these with valid proof and evidence may now be considered to explain that once upon a time, the world was a large mass and was separated by explained forces. Distribution of lemur-like animals across Africa, Asia, and Madagascar is not because of the so-called Lemuria, but a supercontinent that is separated by lateral plate tectonic forces. 500 million years ago, the Scotland and England that we see were not one, but were separated by the Iapetus Ocean. Driven by the flows of the upper mantles, the Iapetus Ocean basin began to close, crashing together. Scotland and England fusing the Laurentian base and Baltic continents together. All this evidence is an indicator that the world was once a supercontinent, but due to the different tectonic forces that occur constantly through the years, the continents seem to be moving away from each other. Imagine if the world was one supercontinent. There would be little to no existence of the different races, as each continent would be easily accessible and interaction leads to fusion of races. There would have been no need to invent boats to travel from one continent to another for trade or for any other reason. The world would be one village. However, if this separation would have never occurred, I don't think that people's minds would be triggered enough to invent aircrafts and ships to facilitate movement, so this would have been an untapped potential that we may have never reached. It is quite evident that the Earth's experience is completely different from that of other planets regardless of existing on the same solar system, facing and rotating around the same sun. The different continents experience the different climatic conditions due to the location in their individual spots. If the Earth was a supercontinent, maybe winter, summer, spring, and autumn would be non-existent, as we would probably be centered in the middle close to the equator. For one to find a beach, you would have to go to the farthest end of the continent for this, and the thought of this is completely exhausting. I believe the separation may have had both its advantages and disadvantages. Some that we may be able to identify and some may remain hidden forever. The best part is that scientists are working around the clock to uncover the different phases our world went through over all those millions of years it existed. There is so much knowledge yet to be tapped, and as different theories keep showing up, we learn something new about this land we live in. One thing remains though, we have the responsibility to do the best we can to keep it in the best condition ever, and the forces that seem bigger than us, we let be and see where they will lead us to. It seems day by day each continent keeps moving further from each other, but it's interesting to know that once upon a time we had one supercontinent. As we study different planets too, we may uncover the existence of the same processes that Earth goes through, and this will shed more light to our questions. It was curiosity and determination that led to the uncovering of such information, and there is so much more ground to cover as we study this Earth and understand our origins, which may predict where we are headed. That's all I have for you today. Be sure to stay tuned for more videos like this by hitting the subscribe button and clicking the notification bell. Make sure to like and suggest the next video in the comment section. Till next time.